بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, من دعا إلى هدى كان له من الأجر مثل أجور من تبعه لا ينقص ذلك من أجورهم شيئا. The Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, whoever calls to guidance, he will have the reward similar to the reward of everyone who followed him in that, without this decreasing their reward in the least. So he said, من دعا إلى هدى, whoever calls to guidance, كان له من الأجر, he has the reward, مثل أجور من تبعه, similar to those who follow him in that, لا ينقص ذلك من أجورهم شيئا, and that would not decrease his reward in the least. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, whoever calls to guidance, means whoever calls to the truth. And encourages people upon it by explaining it or actually doing things that relate to it. We live in a time, and as Imam Tahawi mentioned, that jihad, struggling in the path of Allah, will exist to the day of judgment. But there are different types of jihad. There are different types. The one we are faced with is called Jihadul Bayan. Let me put it. What does that mean? Jihadul Bayan. Your most struggle that you have in our time in relating to the religious matters is to explain the religion correctly, right? To explain the religion correctly. And that is a struggle. That's not easy, right? So there were times where people have to struggle in terms of physical effort, right? Fighting and all of that. This is not our time. our time is a struggle with explaining and clarifying the religion, to distinguish between al-haq and al-batil, and to distinguish between al-batil in the form of al-haq. So two types. You have to distinguish between truth and falsehood on one level. And that is a struggle. You have to clarify that. You have to explain, this is truth, this is false. And on another level, you got to explain the difference when falsehood is in the form of truth. In other words, you have truth. Sometimes you have the truth, words that are true. But what is intended by those words is false. You have a statement or convictions people say that are true, but what they're using them for is false. So you have to distinguish between that. It's not always just, cut and dry. That's it. Black and white. Look, there are shades and multiple shades between truth and falsehood. And you have to be able to distinguish between these matters. So yesterday, I had an interesting discussion. In my scattered thoughts, I always go think about and reflect on things that I actually go through. So alhamdulillah, after many years overseas, our teacher and brother and son and friend, he got all those titles, Sheikh Abdul Aziz, is finally back in Masjid Muhammad, alhamdulillah. And we have a lot of work to do. A lot of work. And we were discussing some things related to the Arab world as we were discussing things here that we have to do in America, because he's been overseas for 6-7 years, something like that. So really, he doesn't have context of America's struggles in deen and in da'wah. He really doesn't have a rounded concept, but he knows the Middle East. He knows all of those things. So we were talking, and we were talking about some of the things that are happening among the scholars in the Arab world. And where you would have differences of opinion by people of knowledge, one censoring the other. And we talked about a spectrum. I don't even think he realized what I was doing, but I was really going deep, picking his brain about different stuff. Because I said this to him when we finished talking, that part about different scholars refuting different scholars and this habit that we fell in the Muslim nation. I said, there is no one on the face of the earth that doesn't have someone who doesn't like him. Nobody. No one is free from that. So you're always going to have this, someone censoring the other. It's always going to happen. right? There is no doubt when you talk, someone's going to listen to you and disagree with you. It's just the nature of life. It's the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the creation. No one's going to agree with you in everything. No one. So hence, when the case is like that, you're going to have different layers of truth and different layers of falsehood that you got to distinguish between, right? And that is a jihad. That's a struggle. Then you have to explain what is correct and what is false. And then sometimes you got to give the why, which is all work. So for instance, we have teachers that to us, we are lovers. They are Ahlul Bayt, family of the Prophet, sallallahu, knowledgeable in al-fiqh, knowledgeable in aqidah, knowledgeable in tasawwuf. And at the same time, you got other teachers whom you love who are knowledgeable in fiqh, knowledgeable in aqidah, knowledgeable in tasawwuf, and they disagree to an extent that will almost make you want to cry. Where this one considers this one kafir, this one disagrees, considers this one an innovator, right? Now these are all, I'm not talking about the others. I'm talking about within Ahl Sunnah. I'm not talking about someone else. I'm only talking about people in Ahl Sunnah. I'm not talking about no one else. So don't think, oh, he's talking about Wahhabiyya. No, I'm not. I'm talking about Ahl Sunnah. I'm not talking about Wahhabiyya. They're not even in this discussion, right? So with that being said, you still have to distinguish and practice your religion. And Sayyidina Ali, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Ali ibn Abi Talib, he said, know the truth and you will know its people. Know the truth and you will know its people. And in another way, another narration, the truth, people, men, they're known by the truth. The truth is not known by men or people. So the truth has its own standing. That's true, but you have to be able to distinguish truth from falsehood. You have to be able to look at shades of things and distinguish what is best for you. I say this why? Because there's a reality. As Black people, now I'm speaking personal, Islam is brought to us, right, by others who are not like us. I'm talking about as African Americans in America. And sometimes we don't realize this. We are unique people on the face of the planet Earth. I don't know, but I don't know every people on the earth. So that's why I say I don't know. But I am not aware of any group on the face of the earth that has a circumstance similar to ours. I'm not aware. Right? Well, let me ask you a question. Do you know anyone who has a similar, let's say 90% around the globe, 90% situation and historic circumstances like Black people? This is just a history question. Maybe you know and I don't. Do you know any group of people on the face of the earth that has a situation historically and presently like African Americans. It could happen. I don't know. Some of you are historians. Some of you know stuff. You watch National Geographic. You might see something that I didn't see. Everyone's saying no. So that must mean something to us. It should. That means no one is like you. And since no one is like you, no one will really understand you because they're not like you. They don't face what you face. They don't deal with what you deal with. And they don't have the historic context that you have. So therefore, everyone who brings something to you brings Islam. Now we're talking about the deen. They bring the deen in their context, not yours. Right? So therefore, you have to have the ability to recognize that. And what they're bringing you is in their context. And among them, those who bring in you Islam, no matter where they're from, they themselves have different shades of understanding of the deen based on their particular context and circumstances. Do you understand that? What is important to them may not at all be important to you. But when they bring the religion to you, it's in the context of what is important to them. And it may not work for you, which I think we've learned now that oftentimes people brought us the deen in a way that doesn't help us at all. At all. It has no relevance in terms of the way they're giving it to us. Not that the deen itself doesn't have a relevance, but the way they're giving it to us doesn't have a relevance. This is something too, and I'm talking about distinguishing shades of truth and falsehood. So they're coming with the deen, which is true, but what they're bringing the deen in their context is false because it's not related to me. So your problem is not my problem. So when you teach me the religion based on your problem or in the context of your problem, then, hey, it doesn't relate to me. And if I use it that way, it's not going to work for me. And each people have to take the truth of Islam and apply it to their own circumstances and situations to make it work. Is this point that I'm reflecting upon? Is this clear to everyone? Right. Now, with that, there is this thing that relates to us. With this understanding, when we deal with each other, we have to understand what we have in common, what we differ upon, and why we differ, and what we need to do to move forward as a people and as a community. Right? That's very important because every single one of us were given this deen in a context that wasn't relevant to our reality. I've come to really realize this, right? Every single one of us have been given the religion in a context that wasn't relevant for our reality. This is just real. And I'm glad to myself, after 4 decades, I finally at least am able to see it clearly. And that's from watching all different types of movements. So our struggle in explaining is to understand that And now what we're going to do about it. But first, understanding it, figuring out what context each one of us have, and it may be in groups, it may be individuals, right? Because sometimes one of us may have 5 different contexts with an S, right? In our understanding of the deen, and we don't realize it. We really like all mixed up. We have a little of this, a little of that, a little of this, a little of that. And that's our picture of deen, which is all contextual based on different realities. It has nothing to do with our realities. So it's not just one, we have several different mixtures. Most people who read books, they have this kind of problem, right? So first is a matter of identifying things, right? Let's look, okay, where'd you get your Islam from, right? I learned, for instance, from Africa, just to give, right? So I learned from the Shehu, Uthman Dan Fodio, or I learned from the Tijanis, or some other group, right? There's different groups from Africa that are in our communities. All of those groups, they have context. Sheikh Uthman Dan Fodio, rahimahullah, he had a context that he lived in, and he was facing certain circumstances that he had to deal with. And he acted according to those circumstances. And his focus in the religion was surrounded around those circumstances. If you go to the Tijaniya in Nigeria or Ghana, they have a context, and their focus is around that context. So when they give us the deen, it is within that context. Likewise, you got a lot of people following some others from Senegal, for instance. That's a context. And it's not the same context as the other two that we mentioned. I'm just mentioning by example. Some of us learned in Sham, the Sham areas, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, right? And when we learned Islam based on what was going on in Syria and the context that they're in. So what they highlighted was relevant to their circumstances, or in Lebanon, or in Jordan, or some who learned from the Palestinian route. It was all in a certain context. If they had certain enemies that were not necessarily your enemies, their Islam and their explanation was based on their enemies. And they made those enemies your enemies, but they may not be your enemies necessarily. You might have could have negotiated with them because you don't have the same relationship and interaction with them where they couldn't negotiate with them because of their circumstances. But they transposed their circumstances on yours and made their enemies your enemies, when maybe if you would have dealt with them, you might not be enemies. You could have a different plane to negotiate. If you understand what I mean. We're not in the same circumstances. So the way you may deal with a person doesn't necessarily mean the way I have to deal with them. If you understand what I mean. For instance, I'm an American. There are certain things I can do that others can't do. I'm an American, right? I never forget this. We was in Syria, and they're always trying to bribe you, right? That's a big thing. Like, get you, lock you up, and then try to bribe you. It's only about taking your money. It has no other purpose. They ask you a million questions, but the end line is, I want to take your money, right? So me and one of my teachers, we were together. So they locked both of us up. Right? And when I say lock you up, detain you. They don't put you in the jail cell, but they put you in some room and give you the blues, right? And so they gathered that he was my teacher and I was the student, right? So they separated us. And I guess I was supposed to be afraid because, you know, I'm not familiar with the culture, you know, I don't know the game, but I'm from America. I'm from the streets. At the end of the day, even if I don't understand fully your culture, I'm from the hood. You're not punking me. That's not happening, right? So in their mind, I'm not a white guy from America. I'm black from the hood. You ain't taking nothing from me. It's a big difference, right? But they don't know that context. I do. No little Arab is taking nothing from me. It's not happening, right? Forget about it, right? And then put me in my own context, my background, it definitely ain't happening. But he don't know that. He just think I'm going to get them in the room, get him in the room, scare him, and he gonna give it up. So they let the sheikh go, and they keep me. And they start talking all this nonsense. Why are you here? Blah, 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 blah. Like, poor version of the FBI, right? So like, you guys, man, will you knock it off, right? So they, you know, who's this? Who you studying with? Why was you here? You know, the same old lines. And they give me all that and then let me sit. And I'm just sitting. Now, he don't know that I'm used to sitting for months, years by myself. He don't know that. Hey, this is playbook 101 for me. Comes back after a couple hours. Oh, you want to tell us what, you know, what we need to know? I had nothing to tell you. I think after several hours of that stuff, 6, 7, 8 hours, they realized that he's not going to give us nothing. It's not happening, right? And I remember they send a lieutenant or something, general, because it's the army, it's not regular police. And he says to me, so you sure you don't have anything to tell you? I said, yeah, I'm not giving y'all no money. That's what I got to tell you. I'm not giving you no money. And he started laughing. He cracked up. I was like, I'm not giving you no money. I don't care what you do. I'm not giving you nothing. And it's not. And the thing is, you know, most people would just break. They're scared. I'm hoping that I want to, you know, I don't want to get detained. They might beat me up. None of that means nothing to me. I'm not giving you nothing. Right? That's just not happening. And he cracked up laughing. And after he left, within 15 minutes, they let me go. Right? See you. With no money. And the guy who was filling out the papers to let me go, he was like, you sure you don't want to reconsider? And I just looked at him like, man, you're crazy. Yeah. But there's context. He thought I was just a regular American that's going to get intimidated and give him $500 or $1,000 so they could be split it among themselves. Not me. I'm not doing that. Right? And that's all it was about. It wasn't about nothing else. All them questions was nonsense. They didn't care about all that. All they want to do was get a stack or 500 that they could split among these poor soldiers who don't get paid not even $50 a month. So if they got an American and we can take his money, that's nice. Split it among 2 or 3 people, everybody who was in it, and we straight. Not me. You can forget about it. But that's understanding context, right? Understanding context. That's it. Just understanding context. They didn't understand my context. My context is, nah, I'd rather die first. I'm not letting you, I don't care what it is. I'd rather die first. I'm not letting you take nothing from me. It's not going to happen, right? But this is common. Had it been someone that's not from my context, and I'm quite sure they do it all the time, they would have just gave up some money to get out. And nothing was going to happen to you, but your money was going to get taken. And I'm quite sure they ran that play on many Americans, different types. And that it was, 101, it worked until you run into someone with a different context, right? For me, that's an insult. Now I'd rather die. It ain't about the money. Well, it was only $500. Why did you stay in jail? Or why did you let them beat you? Because I'm not letting them take my money. But some people, they don't have that kind of context. I'm not letting nobody take nothing from me. That's it. Whatever it takes, period. You're going to die over that? Well, everybody's different context, right? But some people would have got their money taken. I didn't get my money taken. And I went about my business. Now I had to suffer almost 12 hours of being trying to manipulate me, but I was cool with that. Nothing for me, right? I'm just giving you context, right? And I remember the face of my sheikh. He was like, look, just let me know what happens and just cooperate. And I'm looking at him like, nah, it's going to be a long one. Go ahead, sheikh. Go do your thing. This is going to be a long one. I ain't cooperating with nothing, right? And it wasn't about cooperation. It's about extortion or bribery, really. Just give me a little bit. And I understand their context. They need money. It's haram. It's wrong. They shouldn't do it. But they poor, right? That $500 mean a lot to them, which to me, as an American, it's not a lot of money. But for them, that's almost a year's salary for some people, right? Or the 1,000. So everything has context. My point, that's just my story to relate to the context. And our deen has been given to us like that in someone else's context. Now it's our job to sift through all that to find what is Islam in its original context, and how does that original Islam relate to us and our situation, right? And there's a rule that our teachers used to tell us, right? Remember, these are scattered thoughts. I have a bunch of things I want to talk about, so my scattered thoughts be really scattered sometimes. As Sheikh Waleed said, I diverge, but it's all relevant. I love that saying. I diverge, but it's all relevant. There's a reason why I'm saying all this stuff. There's a rule that they say, whoever judges a people without knowing their condition or circumstances is a criminal. Whoever judges or rules over a people, gives a judgment to those people without understanding their circumstances, right, is a criminal. And when I think about that, that's so true, because you're going to be unjust to that person or that group, because you're going to put something on them that doesn't relate to them. And a lot of your judgments are going to be wrong, right? Let me ask you a question. I'm going to see if y'all are up right now quickly. We don't have much time, but I think we got a few minutes. Hold on one second. How many of you, I'm going to ask you a question. Are there more books of fiqh in a madhab, in a school of thought, or more books of fatwas in a madhab? What is more, the books of fiqh or the books of fatwa? You heard that question? Oh, man. Wow. Did y'all notice I made a big boo-boo? Did y'all notice something? I made a big boo-boo. I really messed this up. La ilaha illallah. What was my big boo-boo? Let me see if y'all paying attention. We're in Post-Fajr reflections. Oh, well. Oh, man. I didn't notice that, Mary Booker. I was going to push the Post-Fajr reflections back a little bit. And yeah, man, I'm sorry. My bad. Well, at least we don't got to move. It just be a long Post-Fajr reflections. And no scattered thoughts within Post-Fajr reflections. Alhamdulillah, it's all good. It's all related. Oh, my, it's going to be a long one. Okay. So the question is, the books of fatwas are more. Why? Because the books of fiqh going to give you a general rule and a base. The books of fatwas, they're going to go into details in different cases, and cases are many as the lives of people, right? So what you're going to have is so many different cases, and jurists and judges, they're going to be dealing with these different cases. So you're going to have so many different things. Now, what will you notice in the book of fatwa or fatwas, even if they're not collected in books, but there are books that are collected just for fatawa, right? And not all of that is collected, but in courts, there's a whole bunch of that, right? What do you think are contained in books of fatwas that are not contained in books of fiqh? That's a question. What do you think are contained in books of fatwas that are not contained in books of fiqh? And it's related to what I've been talking about the whole time. What you're going to find opinion, that's true, but this is legal opinion, so it's true. Legal opinion, which is definitely people's perspective, that's true. Their situation in their countries, that's true. More specific, context, right? You're going to find context. What about context? What about context? Bingo, right there. Right? Specific cases according to the time, the place, and people. That's beautiful. That's them super Malikis. They like that. We might have to change madhabs. Right? You're going to have specific cases. that's going to relate to the time, to the place, and to the people. That's beautiful summary, right? Now, every time is going to have the same situation. Not every place is going to have the same situation. And not every people is going to have the same situation. So the fatwas are going to reflect time, place, and people. That's excellent. Now, every madhab and every place that Islam was established has fatwa, legal rulings related to their time, their place, and their people. Every place in the world where Islam has been established has that. Were y'all aware of this? Did y'all know that? Did y'all realize that's the case? In every place where Islam was established, they have fatwas related to their time, their place, and their people. Everywhere in the globe. Now, here's the question. In order to have a fatwa, what do you need to have a fatwa in terms of the person giving the fatwa? Who gives a fatwa? Anybody? Who gives a fatwa? That's a question. Anybody? Does anyone just give a fatwa? What type of scholars? Scholars, true. What type of scholars? Mufti. Yeah, what type? Mujtahid scholars at different levels of ijtihad. And we mentioned them, right? Right? A faqih, mujtahid level. He has certain levels, and that mujtahid, and we mentioned levels. How many levels did we mention specifically in our studies in the Shafi'i school? How many levels of the mujtahid scholar or the scholars levels did we mention? While I'm pointing them with my fingers. How many did we mention? Just in the Shafi'i school, we mentioned levels. How many did we mention? 4 different levels of those scholars who do some form of ijtihad, right? Some form of qualified scholarship, right? And we said at each level, there's going to be different understandings. That's why we got disagreements among scholars, right? So that means in every place, you have a mufti, a scholar who's doing a faqih, who's doing some form of ijtihad based on their place, their time, and their people. Now the question, don't African Americans live in a time, in a place, and aren't they a people? That's a question. It's obvious, right? African Americans live in a time, in a place, and they are a people. So likewise, we should have fatwas that relate to that time, that place, and those people, like they have for everyone else. That's just natural, because we agreed that it exists all over the planet. Everywhere Islam established, that exists. That's real. And if you go to that land and to the scholars of that land and you study the development of jurisprudence in that land, you're going to see it related to that land, those people, and they take the general rules of the sacred law and they apply it to the context of time, place, and people in that area. That's a fact. Not up for debate. Cannot be disputed. Now the question is, has the same been done? Has the same been done for us as a people in our time and in our place related to our context? That's a legitimate question. Right? Now, if we face the whole Islamic world and we don't have this, no, Imam Muhammad has tried. He hasn't done it. So let me say that. Imam Muhammad understood it, but never did it. There's a big difference. And part of it, not being able to do it, is not having all the qualifications, legal qualifications. Not I like him, not he's a good thinker. I'm talking about the legal qualifications, which he understood this, right? To do the job, right? He didn't have the skill set to do the job that's needed to be done, but he understood it and he worked on it. But, you know, there's an old saying in the Arabic language, faqidu shay la yu'tihi, the one who doesn't have a thing cannot give it. That doesn't put him down. It's just, I'm not qualified, right? I can't do heart surgery. I can't, right? I may have some thoughts and ideas about it, and I may be able to even go on the internet and search and tell you what you might need, some possibilities, but I'm not a doctor. At the end of the day, I'm not a doctor. So every attempt I do to help you is going to fall short because I'm not a doctor. That doesn't mean I didn't try to help you. I'm not a doctor. So when we look at the Imam, may Allah have mercy on him, it wasn't that he didn't understand, but the qualifications to do what you understand is another step. And that's why he sent his youth to Syria to try to study, to begin that process. That's why he sent them. And I know some of them who studied, and they're not at that level. It's a level, but that's a communal thing we have to do, not one individual group. It's a lot of work, right? It's a lot of work. And when I'm speaking in that context of the level of work. It's not about our love for people, right? That doesn't have anything to do with it. Do you have the skill set or not, right? I may love you. Excuse me, let me take you down, sis. Right? You may love me, and you may like, Imam Amin, I want to help you. So, and you got leaks in your house, in your pipes. Because you love me, you're not going to tell me to fix the pipes. But I know what I'm doing. I took, you know, some plumbing classes in high school. You're going to say, that's good, but let me get a skilled plumber for the problem I have. I believe you. I know you can fix a pipe. You know how to do, you might have learned that. But the problem I got needs a skilled plumber. That doesn't negate that you're good, but you're not a skilled plumber. So you're not going to be able to take care of all that needs to be done. Though you may even stop the leak partially, but what I need, it may have other things involved with it. That's all I'm saying. Did you understand? Because sometimes people, because I like a person, I have high veneration for a person. Soon as someone says something that doesn't put them where I think of them, I may get upset, and that's not the intent. If you follow me, my sister? When we talk about the skill set, that's all we're talking about. That's not your good intentions, not that you tried, but, you know, do you have the skill set? And that's all I'm talking about. And he knows that. That's why he sent people to study. And the people who study, I know them, and they don't have the skill set. It's a big job. That's why collectively we got to understand first, that's Jihad al-Bayan. the struggle of explaining and making us understanding what we're dealing with, then we actually have to do something about it. And for us, we don't have the skill set. That's why it's important for us to train the next generation. But there's something that we have to do ourselves before we can teach the next generation. We have to learn, right? And this is, I don't think we realize as a whole, I don't think we realize how much work we have to do, right? I don't think we realize that. We have so much work to do. And it's not bad that we have a lot of work to do. What is problematic is that we don't realize yeah, that's right. I don't have the skill set. I can do the same thing that Imam MuhammadAC was trying to do at my level. His level was much bigger than mine. He had a much bigger, harder job. May Allah reward him for all the good that he done. I'm not at that level, and I wouldn't even delude myself to that. But I'm at a level in that to help with others. Like we don't have, he was dealing with a different context. If I mind, Rita, are you with us? Can I have a few more minutes? This is important. Rita, are you still there? Oh.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, I'm going to stop in a minute. We made a mistake. Post-Fajr reflections got mixed into scattered thoughts. Okay, we're going to be in a reliance. I got to bring this to a close. Let me give you an example, right? Imam Muhammad rahimahullah and others, they came in a time when African Americans, blacks, had a do for self mentality. And they identified an enemy, a clear enemy. Would you agree with that? All of us. I'm not mentioning you. Let me take you down, sis, so you don't think I'm just talking to you, though it's based on your question. Do you realize, like Imam Muhammad rahimahullah and all the great leaders of that era came in a time when black people knew the importance of doing for self, and they had a clear enemy that they recognized? Would y'all agree with that? Let's be frank. Black people were still oppressed the whole life of Imam Muhammad becoming Imam Muhammad. Black people were in struggle, right? He lived through the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, even into the 80s, to the 90s. He lived a long time, right? So he lived in a context that black people knew is about us. And he wasn't the only one like that. We had so many black movements, whether they were Islamic or non-Islamic. There was a movement in the country of black self-determination. That's a fact, right? And they knew who was oppressing them and who was trying to derail their progress. They understood, all black people understood that. Even the so-called house Negroes understood that. What they did about it is another story, but they understood. All right? So therefore, whoever spoke in terms of black empowerment was a powerful voice among black people. Would that be agreed? Would that be agreed? Right? They understood. Like, if a guy's woken up, he could be on a corner talking about black stuff, people gonna listen, right? That went all the way up into the 80s and even the 90s. Someone start talking black people, black power, fight the power. Even when I was a kid, you know, fight the power, conscious rap. Black people understood something. Do we live in that time today? It's a resurgence of it, but we went back to sleep as a people, right? And the enemy of our progress has made many of us think that things actually changed. The George Floyd thing only highlighted something that was always existing, but just we were sleeping. So that's why they have this thing called woke, right? Woke. We woke now. But the circumstances, the same circumstances is there, but the people were different. Let me give you that in a religious context. That is one of my favorite quotes of Sayyidina Ali, right? They came to Ali when he was the Khalifa. And they said to them, we got all these problems because of you. During the time of Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, we didn't have all these problems because he had all these fights going on, right? And Ali looked at them, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He said, that is because Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman, they had people like me, men like me, and I got men like you. That's a powerful statement. And I say that to the leaders of our time in the black community, right? You comparing those others who had people who understood their context and were willing to listen to anyone who would remove that situation. Where we live with the people who are so comfortable, they won't do anything for their empowerment. They will fight you so you don't empower them. They will fight you so you don't empower them. It's a big difference. It's a whole different context, right? Y'all follow what I mean? Do you know how difficult it is to get us to cooperate? I'm telling you as an imam, to get a group of imams in a room and get them to cooperate is like pulling teeth without Novocaine. Seriously, it's very hard. And you know why it's so hard? Now it's going to hurt. One of the reasons it's so hard, because all of us are in survival mode. And we are afraid subconsciously, it ain't ego, all of it. We are afraid to lose the little bit of support we have because we've learned that our people sometimes will be like a feather blown in the wind, right? So we'll follow every dog that barks. That's that, and we know that about ourselves. So therefore, I gotta keep the barking down to a minimum. So you only hear my bark. Because if I let you hear someone else's bark, you may leave me and support them, then we fall. That's a mentality. Do y'all? And I use the dog so you can say it's loud barking. There's not every dog that barks gonna bite, right? No, serious, this is real. I've seen it. So that's why I'll have a platform, so-and-so will have a platform, so-and-so, and we won't share. Why? Because I don't want you, my people listening to you, and they'll go support you and leave me. Instead of us working together, everyone's in survival mode. Right? Everyone's in survival mode. And that is also related. Now, egos may be too, but it's not all ego. That's a part of it. For some, not for everybody. But I believe the survival mode is the bigger picture. But that survival mode relates to us not supporting our people, right? That relates to us. So there is accountability on leadership, yes, but there also accountability on us as followers and supporters of our leadership. How much will we support each other, right? So that we can feel I can work with others and it's not going to be to my demise to work with someone else. You follow? I know this for a fact. All right, I got to continue these scattered thoughts tomorrow, right? I'm sorry, scattered thoughts got mixed into Post-Fajr reflections. But this is a serious discussion. I said all that to that, so I'll tell you the reason why I got in. Tonight, we are attempting to do just what I'm talking about. So tonight at 7:30, Sheikh Yahya from Baltimore, Maryland, will be teaching at 7:30 p.m. tonight, right? Now, I like to be straight up in context with things so we can trust one another. So I'm a straight shooter when it comes to that, because I believe if we hide things, we set ourselves up for failure. So Sheikh Yahya, right, is an African American, a very unique individual. He's a Harvard graduate. He graduated from Harvard. And he studied traditional knowledge in Lebanon, in Yemen, and I believe he had a stint in Egypt. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Right? But for sure, Lebanon and Yemen. And he graduated from a university in Lebanon. I believe that he is one of the people in our community. If we cooperate together, we can move this ball further down the field for multiple reasons. Especially when I look at him, and I told him this, we disagree on some issues. Some issues, they're not core issues. I believe they're issues from someone else's context, putting them on us to make sure we don't come together. That's my personal opinion. But it may not be like that, and he may not agree with that. But that's my feeling. And it's only my feeling. It doesn't have to be true. It's just the way I see things. But I believe, and he does agree with me in this, when we start taking responsibility for us, it won't have the same outcome. Even if the differences exist, it won't have the same outcome. The difference can exist, but if we're the ones dealing with it, it's not going to have the same outcome, right? But if the ones who are teaching us are the ones dictating the policy, we always going to fight. Do you follow what I mean? We're always going to fight if someone else who doesn't have our context is dictating on us how to deal with our context, and they're giving us the information and telling us how to think. We're going to fight all the time. But if we ourselves take information and we work, us doing it, it's going to have a whole different outcome, right? So me and him had a serious talk, a quite harsh one, but lovely brother, black stuff. You know how we talk, black folks. right? We can get an understanding with one another, right? Especially when we us. I love when we just be us. We don't act like nobody else, and we just be us. Man, we get understanding quick. Quick, we'll get an understanding. And I think we will all benefit from him greatly, right? In many ways, we can work together, not be separated by a few points that someone else is using to keep us divided. When we learn the religion properly, which we both have traditional studies, we can look at things differently. We can see differences in a different light. And we can contextualize our differences, and we can accomplish something, right? And then it's just a matter of trust, right? It's just a matter of trust and cooperation and prioritizing our concerns, and then working on what is more important instead of what someone else wants to make important for us so they can keep us divided. Y'all follow my point? I don't like to hide differences, right? I don't, because differences, if we hide them, will be used in the background to undermine our progress. So I'd rather have it on the table, say this is what we're dealing with, and this is how we're going to deal with that, right? Or as my elders used to say, I'll say this about that, right? We have to do it. We have to take control of our own future, our own progress. It has to be, and I'm going to say it loud and clear. I know some people may not like it. It has to be a Black thing. For our own survival and good, it has to be a Black thing. Not to exclude no one else, to help ourselves. We never should exclude anyone. But the context we talk in has to be one of empowerment, because we are suffering. And we have to move the ball down the field. That doesn't mean we don't cooperate with others. That doesn't mean we dislike others. But we realize the necessity of self-preservation. Y'all feel that? Y'all follow me there? We realize the necessity of self-preservation. We are on the brink of extinction if we don't do this. Black African Americans and Islam will be a thing of the past if we don't get our stuff together. Seriously, it ain't about us as individuals. It ain't about my community. It ain't about my leadership. It ain't about none of that. If we are going to survive the onslaught that is coming to us, we better get ourselves together. It can't be about one of us. We need all of us. And that's going to be hard because we don't know how to cooperate with one another. It's difficult. We got all kinds of stuff going on, but we have to overcome it. So this is our attempt to do it, right? And I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but we have to make the effort. And from our side, as Masjid Muhammad, I'm putting my hands with anyone who wants to cooperate for the best of our people as Muslims and as our people in general, because we still have that job. The same thing that affects Black people affects Black Muslims. It ain't changed. African-American people, whatever they're going through, African-American Muslims are going through the same thing. And Islam ain't removed it. So we still have work to do, all of us. And if we can start to come together collectively, despite our disagreements, and learn to work through our disagreements, we're going to get the job done. Or we'll move the ball down the field for the next generation. Even if we just do that, we might not have enough time. Like I told him, we old. We might not have enough time to solve the problem. But what we can do is we can help the next generation by us starting the process or continuing the process at another level. Because if I look at Imam Wardi Muhammad, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, may Allah be pleased with him, he didn't have the resources that collectively what we have. Absolutely not. Collectively, the resources we got as African Americans in Islam, he didn't have those same collective resources. We've studied now in every place in the world. We have relationship with everybody around the world, all over the globe. We can see things in a whole different light. And our knowledge of the Islamic sciences is way more advanced. Way more advanced. Collectively, if we bring all that stuff together, la ilaha illallah, what we could do. That stuff about fatwa, we have it. But we got to do it. We have it. We have so many university graduates from Islamic prestigious universities in the Black community. We have so many people who study traditionally on the ground. So many. So we got the university students, and we got students with chains of narration from scholars. We have a lot. I'm talking about in the Black community, but it's all scattered. We need to bring it in one collective pot and then sort it out and work for our benefit. And this first step with Sheikh Yahya is the first step for us in that regard. And inshallah, so I would hope y'all would join. And it's going to be rocky. I don't doubt that, right? But I believe it's going to set a precedent that's going to move us forward. I honestly believe that. As long as we remain mature and we are fearless and confident in our abilities, we're going to get it done. We're going to move this ball down the court, right? And it's needed. No, School of Fiqh does, well, when I say School of Fiqh doesn't matter, as long as the 4 schools is not problematic, right? But in terms of cooperating, there is a context. We have to define what is our correct understanding of the deen. But at the same time, there is room for us to work, right? Even the Wahhabi, who I totally disagree with, right? In this issue, it doesn't mean he's not good in this issue, right? So he might not be able to help us in this issue, and we may have to iron that out. But in this issue, he's fine. We just need to know he's a Wahhabi. Do you understand? Listen what I just said. I'm sorry, reader, but this is extremely important. Because someone's a Wahhabi doesn't mean you can't cooperate with them. You just can't cooperate them in the bad belief without solving that issue and making it well known. But he may be a good in something else. He may have a good skill set, better than you. And he's good for that. And you can cooperate him with that while working on the other things. Don't hide it, work at it. Listen, you are a Wahhabi. I am Ash'ari. Let's not blur the lines. That's real. We could deal with that. Why is it that you want to, I'm not a Wahhabi. Okay, these are the beliefs of the Wahhabi. Do you have those beliefs? Okay, you're not a Wahhabi. You have beliefs similar to the Wahhabis. Is that fine? Right? Can we agree to that? You don't want to be called a Wahhabi. All right, great. You're not a Wahhabi. Here are the beliefs of the Wahhabiyya. Here are the beliefs of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Are your beliefs consistent with them? Yes. Those beliefs we call Wahhabi. Now, if you don't want to be called a Wahhabi, but you're not going to hide behind another name acting like these are the Wahhabi beliefs are not your beliefs. We're not playing those games. Do you follow what I mean? I'm Ash'ari. I don't make a bones about it. I follow the school of Imam Abu Hassan al-Ash'ari in Aqidah. We have a certain belief. So if someone says, I don't want to use labels. Okay, do you believe this? The people who believe that are normally called Ash'aris. The people who believe that are normally called Wahhabis. The people who believe this is called the Nation of Islam. The people who believe this are usually called Ahmadiyya. The people who believe this are called Moore Science Temple. Now, whatever you want to call yourself, that's fine for me. But these tenets that you hold are known wellly as these people. Is that clear? Do y'all follow me? Like, stop. We can't play games. It's too crucial for us to play games. Do you understand my point? He said, I don't know Imam Amin when I'm in therapy. No, we got to be honest, right? We got to be honest, because if we start cheating each other, we're messing up our progress. Because you are having these beliefs. And when we deal with each other, I need to know what I'm dealing with. Or what you're going to do, you're going to undermine the whole thing we're doing. Because you're going to act like I'm just Sunni. And you're going to be spreading Wahhabi beliefs, and then we're going to fight. Right? Or I'm going to be spreading Ash'ari beliefs under the guise of we just Sunni. We're going to fight. So we just honest. He's an Ash'ari. That's what he believes. So when you're dealing with Imam Amin, you know he believes Allah exists without a place. He's not a body. He's not a particle. He doesn't have attributes, right? No, it's not labels. No, it's not being labeled that prevents us from moving forward. Why? Because we don't know what we're dealing with. Then when we discover, we fight. If we already understand he's a Republican, he's a Democrat, can we work together? We're gonna differ, but we can still move the country forward, because that's a Republican, that's a Democrat. He's not a Republican acting like a Democrat. He's a Republican. He's independent. That's how you know people, right? So I want you to understand that. That's all it is. It's context, right? Do you want me to sell you a Hyundai with a Benz sticker on it? Who's going to buy that? I take a Benz label, the emblem for Mercedes-Benz, and put it on a Hyundai and sell it for you for $75,000. Who's buying? Since labels don't matter. Who's going to buy? That's a question. I took a Benz emblem and I put it on a Hyundai, and I put the wheels, I put everything. Who's going to buy that for $75,000? Anyone? Any takers? Come on. You said labels don't matter. Right? So labels do matter. Because labels tell you about what you're getting. Because when you see a Benz label, you expect certain things. When you see a Hyundai label, you expect certain things, and they're not the same. But if I mix the labels up, you're going to feel cheated. So let's just be real with each other. That doesn't mean you won't buy a Hyundai. You're just not going to buy a Hyundai in the form of a Benz, right? That's all. You might buy the Hyundai. You might like a Hyundai, but you want to know it's a Hyundai. And you wanted a Hyundai for a purpose. You didn't want a Benz. So don't put a fake emblem on something and tell me that's what you're giving me. It's not. Now, do you understand what I'm saying in that context? I had a Hyundai before. I couldn't afford a Benz. And I had a Benz too, right? When I got the money, I went from the Hyundai and I got me a Mercedes. I've done it, right? So it happens. That's all that's about. It's not the labeling. It's not labeling and deceiving. That's dangerous. I don't want to be labeled so I can deceive you. No, don't deceive me. Tell me what it is. Tell me what it is. I can deal with it. I'm an adult. That's your belief. That's your belief. I can't, that's Allah guides whomever he wills. But at least tell me the truth. Don't fool me. Don't deceive me. Tell me what I'm dealing with. That's truth. All right, I'm sorry. We got 10 minutes. But this was an important conversation. We don't have enough time to talk about all the stuff we need to talk about. But let's get to what we said we were going to do quickly. We got 9 minutes. Go to book V. No, this is poor Wawa's coffee. Sometimes this is a crime in coffee drinking, but I don't know, I like it somehow. I can't drink it all the time, but sometimes it gets, I want some Wawa coffee. I don't know. This comes from my working days, construction. This was the only thing available. Right? But this is a crime in coffee drinking. You drinking Wawa? That's gas station coffee. Astaghfirullah. You know, real coffee drinkers the lowest they're gonna go is Starbucks. But you know, it happens sometimes. So we on page 816. Farouk, I don't know why you think I was some, bro. I ain't sitting around here telling stories, bro. I live your life. Stop. Go ahead. Book V. Hey, please, let us make dua quickly while we're having coffee fun. Let us make dua for our Sheikh Yahya Rodis. He's not feeling well. May Allah give him complete healing and afiyah for Sayyidi Sheikh Yahya Rodis. Al-Fatiha. I'll just tell you a quick funny joke. Me and Sheikh Yahya are real close friends, right? People wouldn't know that one of my closest friends in the deen is a white guy, right? Stop. But that's my man's, right? And that's why I said make dua for me. He's sick. He's not feeling well. Sometime all that traveling beat you up. We was in Canada, I think it was, right? So we drink coffee, and Sheikh Yahya is a coffee drinker. If anyone knows him, he's like, he loves rich, expensive tasting coffees. That's his thing. He likes coffee, right? So we were in Canada somewhere, and someone said, Sheikhs, y'all need coffee. He was like, yes, bring coffee. So when we was coming off the airport, when we got to the place, the guy brought some coffees. What's that coffee place y'all got in Canada, Fatima? I like their cinnamon rolls, but the coffee's horrible. What's the name of that place? It's like y'all Dunkin' Donuts. What's it called? It's red, the red sign. It's Fatima. Who's been in Canada? What's the name of that place? Their version of Dunkin' Donuts. Anyone knows? I forget the name of it. No one? She's not there. Oh, sorry. What's the name of that? Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons. Tim Hortons. I think that's the name of the place. So they brought some Tim Hortons. Sheikh Yahya looked at it and said, yo, his eyes got all big. He said, is that gas station coffee? He said, we can't drink that. He said, we can't drink that. He was like, "La, we can't drink that." Oh, that was funny. You had to see his face, though. He was dead serious. Like, oh, come on, you can't be serious. Oh, mashallah. That was funny. You had to be there to get the laugh. All right, we're on page 816. Man, that was hilarious. And the guy was looking like, what I do? What I do? Because, you know, they all over the top with the shake stuff. So they don't realize that we regular people. They like, oh, I offended the sheikh. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sheikh. I'll go get you whatever you. These young kids, man. Oh, my goodness. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sheikh. I'm sorry. He go to the people. I didn't mean to offend the sheikhs. I'm sorry. It's not that deep, man. It was a joke. Oh, my goodness. Okay, page 816, Imam Ghazali. We talked about the creed, as Imam al-Haddad said. So let's quickly read the creed of Imam Ghazali. I have to read it in twice because I talk too much, but go ahead. Bismillah. Is my reader there? Hello?
Sorry. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Or no?
I'm sorry?
Do you got 10 minutes? Do you have 10 minutes? Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. The author, may Allah Ta'ala have mercy on him, said, V 1.0, Allah. V 1.1, Ghazali. Praise be to Allah Ta'ala, who originates all and returns it, who does as he wills. He of the noble, throne and overwhelming force, the guide of his elect servants to the wisest path and straightest way, who has blessed them, after having had them attest to his oneness, by preserving the tenets of their religion from the darknesses of doubt and misgivings, bringing them through his providence and guidance to follow his chosen messenger, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and the example of his noble and honored companions. He who manifests himself and his acts to his servants through his sublime attributes, of which none possess knowledge save those who give heed with a present mind. His oneness. He is one in being without partner, unique without peer, ultimate without opposite, alone without equal. He is one, pre-eternal, beginninglessly uncreate, everlastingly abiding, unceasingly existent, eternally limitless, the ever
That should
self-subsisting.
be beginninglessly uncreated.
Beginninglessly uncreated.
Yeah, it should be a D there.
Okay. Everlastingly abiding, unceasingly existent, eternally limitless, the ever self subsisting, through whom all else subsists, ever enduring without end. He is, was, and ever will be, possessed of all attributes of majesty, unannihilated by dissolution or separation through the passage of eons or terminus of interims. He is the first and last, the outward and inward, and he has knowledge of everything.
Here, Imam al-Ghazali is describing about al-Wahdaniyah, the attribute of oneness, and giving all of those descriptions of the one who is attributed with oneness. So you could summarize all of that by saying Allah is one. At the end of this, he said, هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وبكل شيء عليم. There is a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where he said, اللهم أنت الأول فليس قبلك شيء وأنت الآخر فليس بعدك شيء وأنت الظاهر فليس فوقك شيء وأنت الباطن فليس دونك شيء. Imam al-Bayhaqi, rahimahullah, when he explained this hadith, he said, in it is a proof that Allah exists without a place. He said, because if there is nothing above him and nothing beneath him, he cannot be in a place. Now, go ahead.
His transcendence. He is not a body with a form or limitary quantitative substance, not resembling bodies in quantifiable or divisibility, or in being a substance or qualified by substance, or being an accident or qualified by accidents.
So here, Imam al-Ghazali talking about at-tanzih, Allah's divine transcendence of resembling created things. And he makes 3 points that are easiest to always know to separate Allah from all creations. He said that Allah is not a jism, that Allah is not a jawhar, and Allah is not an arad, right? A jism is a body, a jawhar is a particle from which bodies are made, and an arad is an attribute of that particle. Whenever you take the attribute of being a jism, or jismiya, or being a jawhar, or an arad from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you distinguish Allah from all the creations, because everything that is a creation is either a jawhar, an arad, or a jism. Naam. And Allah is distinctly different from all of that.
He does not resemble anything that exists, nor anything that exists resemble him. There is nothing whatsoever like unto him, nor is he like unto anything.
So here, when we say likeness, you can have complete likeness, which Allah is clear from. You can have partial likeness in some aspects, which Allah is clear from. And you can have likeness in one aspect, which Allah is clear from. There is no similitude between Allah and his creation. Now,
he is not delimited by magnitude, contained by places, encompassed by directions, or bounded by heavens or earth.
So here, Imam al-Ghazali, he clarifies the belief of Ahlul Sunnah by saying Allah is not contained in places, not one place or not many places. Allah is not encompassed by directions. Directions don't apply to Allah, nor is Allah contained by limits, like the heavens or the earth. Now,
he is established on the throne, Mustawin, Quran Surah 20, Ayah 5, in the way he says and the meaning he intends, established in a manner transcending contact, settledness, fixity, indwelling, or movement.
So here are 3 things. When we say istiwa related to Allah, Imam al-Ghazali clarifies what is meant. Even though the translator used the word established, Imam al-Ghazali says, istiwa, that is clear from mumasa, from being in contact, wal istiqrar, from settling in a location, what tamakkun, to be in a place, wal hulul, to indwell, wal intiqal, and to move. All of that is not related to the istiwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is no coming in contact with anything. There is no settling on a place. There is no being in a location or being fixed in a direction. There is no indwelling in his creation, and there is no transfer or movement. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now,
the throne does not bear him up, but is borne up by the subtlety of his infinite power, as are the angels who carry it, and all are powerless in his grasp.
And why? There's an indication, had Allah been on the throne, then the throne is carried by angels, right? They carry the throne. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would be carried because the throne is carried. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the throne and those who carry the throne are subdued by the power of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. Now,
he is above the throne, the heavens, and all else to the farthest reaches of the stars, with an aboveness that does not increase his nearness to the throne or heavens, or his distance from the earth and what lies beneath it.
So they have fawqiyya makan and fawqiyya makana. You have an aboveness of place and an aboveness of status. When we talk about Allah, there is no such thing as an aboveness of place. It is aboveness of status, rank, and degree. Whenever we say Allah is above, what is understood from that is fawqiyatul makana, right? It is an aboveness of status, not a fawqiyya of al-makan, of place. Status, not place. And that's why there's no closeness or distance, because it's not related to place. But in status, Allah is above.
He is as exalted in degree above the throne in the heavens as he is above the earth and its depths. Though he is near to everything in existence, nearer to a servant than his own circular vein, and is witness to everything. His nearness no more resembles the nearness of objects to one another than his entity resembles the entities of objects. He
Why?
does
Because
not
he's not a body. So al-qurb and al-bu'd, relation to Allah, is not by bodies, right? Now,
he does not indwell in anything, nor anything indwell in him. He
so
is
no
as
one could
exalted
be Allah, and Allah cannot be in creation.
He is as exalted above containment in space as he is above confinement in time. He was before creating time and space, and is now even as he was.
And here, look at the words of Imam Ghazali here, right? So he is not contained by place, and he is not confined by time. Look, Imam Ghazali says, بل كان قبل أن خلق الزمان والمكان وهو الآن على ما عليه كان. He was existing before he created time and place, and he is as he always has been without time and place. Now,
He is distinguished from his creation by his attributes. There is nothing in his entity other than him, nor is his entity in what is other than him. He is beyond change and motion. Events neither
because change at taghayyur is the most significant sign of a thing, that thing is a creation. Whatever changes, it is the sign that thing is a creation, because things only change from better to worse, from a higher degree to a lesser degree. And Allah mawsufun bi kulli kamalin yaliku bi. Allah is this attributed with every befitting perfection. Therefore, he cannot become less than his status of perfection. Therefore, Allah does not change. Now,
Events neither occur within him nor changes befall him. He remains in his attributes of majesty, exalted above change, and in the attributes of his perfection, beyond needing any increase in perfection. The existence of his
because the one
entity,
who is in need is created, and the created cannot be God. And that's what Allah says, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ غَنِيٌّ عَنِ الْعَالَمِينَ. Verily, Allah is clear, is free of need of all of the creation.
the existence of his entity is known by human reason, and in the afterlife is beheld by the eyesight of the righteous as a beatitude and favor, to consummate their perfect joy with the sight of his noble countenance. His life and almighty power.
Now, stop there. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Inshallah ta'ala, I remind you tonight at 7:30 is going to be a new series of classes that will be, inshallah, every Thursday night. Tonight and next week, there will be an introduction to a book that was written by Sheikh Yahya called the Seven Hadith. I think that's the name of it, the Seven Hadith. And this is in a book that he wrote and he compiled to explain the knowledge that is obligatory on every morally responsible individual, right? Right? So he authored this book with the intention of teaching us the knowledge that we need to know. And it is something that he's going to explain. So every Thursday, inshallah, we are intending to have Sheikh Yahya explain his book. So tonight and next week will be an introduction. The book will be made available that you can purchase. It's on Amazon. I think it's only like, let me see, hold on. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry, maybe help. Um, that work? He'll give us the link. I don't know where to find it. I've never been good at that. He'll give us the link, inshallah. Oh, there you go. That's one link. But he said it's on Amazon. How much is that, Diana, on Barnes and Noble? Let me look. How much is the price of that on Barnes and Noble? Okay. I think it's cheaper on Amazon. I think it's $5 on Amazon. So those who want to get it, you can order it. I think Amazon, they said 2 days, they'll bring it to you quick. And I think it's cheaper. That's what he said. I don't know. But $5.99, $5, whatever works for you. And it's 7:30. The half year, oh wow, the half year dean show is after. Subhanallah. My bad. That's the only time he had free. Allah. I didn't even think of time. I thought the half year dean, because the half year dean show is at 8 after. Usually they go before me, Imam Naeem, but the half year dean show is after that. You can catch the recording. So you can go to the half year dean show and then you can catch the recording if that's what you do. Inshallah. It's fine. It'll be available. It'll be recorded. So you don't have to miss the half year dean show. And then if I can find another time that is suitable for him, we'll put it in. And Amazon, is it cheaper or was I wrong? Or is the same on Amazon too? You see why we all got to be together? We crash, not even realizing we crashing. That's why we got to work together so that we can support one another, right? No, don't do that. Don't do that. Watch if you are in the habit of watching the Half Your Dean show, watch the Half Your Dean show. You can catch that on, you can catch the recording. It'll be available. So you don't have to leave one. We could do 2 things, but not at the same time. Pay attention. Tayyib, inshallah. Everyone has different interests. So if you're watching the Half Your Dean show, do it, right? And you can catch the recording. And we'll set up other ways. But we got to work what we can work with. And don't cause a fight between the Malikis and the Shafi'is. We're not fighting, we're family. No, I'm joking. I'm messing with you. Okay, inshallah, may Allah reward you all. What time is the Half Your Dean show? It's at 8 o'clock, right? What time is Half Your Dean show, Khadija, Sophia, Samira, Imam Naeem? No one knows? Or it's just a delay? Inshallah. It's at 8 o'clock. So you can catch it half an hour of the class, and it ain't gonna be much more than that, 45 minutes, half an hour to an hour. So you can catch a half an hour, then you can go to the half of your Deen show, right? You can make it happen. We are innovative people. Tayyip, inshallah, we'll see you tonight with Sheikh Yahya at 7:30. Barakallahu bikum. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.